Hello, everyone. My name is Sudha Anand. I'm the Digital Collections Librarian at Indiana University. Thank you for joining me today to hear about my open source journey. I want to begin with a quick overview of my experience working in academic libraries, specifically with digital collections before leading up to my current role as a digital collections librarian. My academic library career began at DePauw University as a coordinator of library systems and resources in 2012. During my time at DePauw, I handled library automation, workflow improvements, and system integrations, including administering and maintaining digital and archival special collections. I've also been tasked with planning and collaborating on several system migration projects at various levels. DePauw is part of the Private Academic Library Network of Indiana, or PALNI, which is a group of 23 libraries, and I was part of the digital admin team, which provided administration and support for PALNI's consortial Content DM digital collection system. I was also a member of the Institutional Repository Task Force working with possible adoption of Islandora, as well as involved in the early stages of the Haiku for Consortia project. I began my digital collections librarian role at Indiana University Bloomington in January of 2024. I use digital collections serve as an institution-wide repository for 2D and document-based archival material. I serve as a product owner as well as service manager along with Julie Hardesty for the digital collections service. These are some rough numbers as they're constantly growing with both migrated content as well as new content being added to the repository every day. As someone fairly new to the open source world, I wanted to learn about the backend technology and familiarize myself with the environment specific terms. There were a plethora of them, and terms such as Valkyrie, copy, and Hyrax were a bit of a challenge to understand at first, and there was a steep learning curve. I was familiar with a few of them, such as IIIF and Bulkrax, but from a need to know perspective rather than a familiarity at the level of working with everyday and providing support to collection managers. I use digital collection platform is entirely based on open source software and implementation of Samvera Hyrax. This slide lists the key working parts of the infrastructure. As I shared in my previous slide, definitely a bunch of terms and acronyms that I needed to get familiar with as a new service manager and product owner. As with any new role, I was prepared to learn the basics and familiarize myself with the architecture and workflows by beginning to read through documentation, both about the product as well as any available local user guides. As someone who had worked with mostly vendor-based systems, documentation was something you expected the vendor to provide whenever they have a new update to the software. You do not really concern yourself about the moving parts, just the product as a whole and what you are or might be expected to know to alter your everyday tasks and workflows, as well as to provide support. As someone who's responsible for administration and support, you might draft workflow documentation to provide guidance at the institution or consortia level, but not really delve into providing documentation to address all levels of expertise. Imagine my surprise when I learned that as product owners and service managers, we get to put these together for our users as we work through updates for the different working parts of the infrastructure and how it affected the service as a whole. Another level of complexity was that documentation was really scattered in many locations, and the onus was on us to ensure if the documentation we located applied to the current version of the system or the working part our institution had in place. To add more complexity, open source systems could also be customized, which took them further away from the documentation provided by the developers with each update on the main branch of the software. In addition, there were a lot of gaps in the documentation, or I was not still familiar enough with the Samvera documentation locations to find what I needed. Then there was also the task of figuring out who the documentation was meant for. Another developer, a product owner, a service manager, or an end user. This prompted me to join the Samvera documentation interest group when it was created, to not just gain more understanding, but also to identify and contribute to documentation needs of the community from a new user perspective. Now, in my current role, I understand the significance of the blurred lines when it comes to working in an open source environment, as well as the overlap of roles and responsibilities. As service managers and product owners, we steer and support not only product development, but also act as the frontline support, fielding questions from collection managers and users. To do this, we must have in-depth understanding of the product and the service, be able to identify gaps and plan and prioritize development needs, both functional and user requested. Most of the system development involved is handled at our institution through agile development methodologies, where we have 2-week sprint time, another new term for my toolkit, when we focus on digital collections development, followed by 2 weeks of no sprint time, where the developers can focus on other projects. We stick to the 2 weeks on-off schedule, but there is definitely bleed through of digital collections work for the developers even during the off times. During the sprints, Julie and I, as service managers and product owners, work with our small group of developers to prioritize backlog issues as well as bring any new requests or features from our stakeholders to the discussion. Like any system, the Samvera Hyrax repository comes with its own set of terms that play a key role in understanding how the system is laid out and how each process works. This was my way of understanding the environment-specific vocabulary better and how to apply it in my current role as a service manager and product owner. To begin with, we refer to the objects in the repository as works. Each work can have one or more associated files. But when it comes to collections, this is where there is a twist, because we have two types of collections, an administrative set versus the general collections we are all are familiar with. The administrative set is a special type of internal or private collection set up by an administrator to configure metadata properties on a group of works in the repository. It is also used to set visibility parameters and to what level a participant can interact with the works contained in it. Each work in the repository can belong to only one admin set. On the other hand, a collection can be private or public and is a thematic or logical grouping of works, and a work can belong to more than one collection in the repository. The way I remember this difference between an admin set and a collection is by thinking of the admin set as my iTunes music. It contains all my music, every song that I own, and the collections as my playlists. I can add the same song to both my workout as well as my driving playlists. And I can create as many playlists with the songs in the iTunes music list as I need to. But how do we configure metadata properties for an admin set? This is where we define a context. A context is a customized list of metadata fields that need to be set up prior to the creation of an admin set. Then we assign the created context to the admin set to apply the fields in the context to all the works in the admin set. A context can be set up in two ways, either through the admin dashboard or through a YAML file, which is a backend configuration file for metadata that can be updated as required. YAML files are used for multiple purposes in Hyrax, and this is one of the key areas. This file also holds the entire list of property definitions or metadata fields contained in the repository. These can be classified into required functional and descriptive properties. This same YAML file is also home to the configuration of work type or class, which is a list of object types the repository is configured to host. In IU's case, our repository supports images, archival material, paged resources, bib records, and scientific material. But the majority of our items fall within the first three categories. The YAML file also holds information about indexed metadata fields, controlled vocabulary terms, as well as supports customization of field labels. Hyrax user administration is role-based, and the repository admin role is the super user and has full control over the repository configurations. The other three roles of manager, depositor, and viewer are all collection and admin set specific and determines the level of control each participant has over them. Roles and groups are helpful in user management as they help manage multiple users' access to different collections in the repository. As part of our migration, this has been a really useful way to ensure collection managers have access to works created even before they begin actively working on the repository. This is due to the fact that in Hyrax, collection and admin set permissions for participants is not retroactive, which means that any work added previously needs to be assigned to the user in small batches. The Hyrax application has two interfaces, an admin dashboard that is used by administrators, collection managers, and depositors for creating, editing, or deleting admin sets, collections, works, and files. This is also the interface used for user and metadata management. The dashboard also provides functionality for multiple work creation when the bulk racks gem is incorporated into the Hyrax setup. A gem or Ruby gem is a module or code library and something like an add-on feature that can be added or turned on for use in the repository. The dashboard area also provides functionality to export collection-specific metadata, which is especially useful for data cleanup and multi-work manipulation. At IU, we do not currently utilize the tasks section, which provides the ability to review submissions and manage leases and embargoes on works. The other key parts of the interface are the public end user search and discovery interface, as well as the high resolution IIIF image viewer on each work record page. As mentioned earlier, IU utilizes the universal viewer. The IIIF viewer provides a variety of functionality, such as annotations and comparisons, high levels of zooming, single and paged viewing, structure editing, and of course, a IIIF manifest that acts as a packaging of the visual and metadata parts of the work record in addition to its structure, if there's one available, to be used by any IIIF viewer, aiding cross-institutional sharing and advanced image manipulation. IU Digital Collection supports multiple work types: images, archival material, page resources, bib records, and scientific material. But the key types currently hosted in the repository are images, archival material, and page resources. Here are some current numbers from our repository. The image content includes photographs, slides, and maps from various IU departments and campuses. Page resource content includes works such as manuscripts and historic student newspapers from different IU campuses. The archival material is a special use case where digital collections holds digital objects for archive-based finding aids. A special code is in place to incorporate the IIIF viewer inside the archive space user interface. As you can see from this image, how the digital content hosted on digital collections is embedded in a finding aid incorporating the IIIF viewer on the archive space user end. After understanding the basics of the Hyrax infrastructure and the key features and workflows, one of the key projects I came into was to engage in the migration of 2D and archival documents from various legacy systems and boutique websites. These were numerous in number at IU, and here are a few examples. The current one we are migrating is Image Collections Online, which was used as the 2D image repository before Hyrax. In the next slide, I will do a quick walkthrough of the steps in migration. As you can see, migrating each collection is a multi-step and highly labor-intensive and detail-oriented process. We try to keep collection managers informed and seek feedback through various steps, including metadata mapping. The hope is to create a comprehensive set of metadata fields so that the administrative set works for current as well as future collections from that department or campus location. We do create some customized administrative sets, but they're rare and mostly for highly customized legacy collections. We currently have an image collection we are working on that is highly customized and has about 145 metadata fields that we work to split across digital collections and archive space to provide an easier viewing experience for the user. The use of Python code to transform metadata has been especially useful when combining multiple metadata fields from the legacy system into a single metadata field with internal labels to identify the information. The automation ensures quicker processing and better data quality. As accessibility discussions to meet the new ADA Title II guidelines picked up pace, IU has established some workflows to meet accessibility needs to patrons who need them. To achieve this and to create a point of contact for digital collections, we have a support link that has been added to the digital collections service on each work page that is linked to an accessibility request form that collects information, resulting in a JIRA ticket that is handled by the IU Library's accessibility remediation team, of which I am a member. Patrons can request accessible versions of online library collections content, including content in digital repositories, digitized archival and special collections, digital exhibits, library publishing platforms, and licensed electronic resources. While migration of many legacy systems is still ongoing, we do want to encourage collection managers to begin working with digital collections so they can get used to the interface and workflows. With this aim, we have a training exercise in place that guides users on how to add new works and edit them in the dashboard, as well as how to import multiple works using a CSV file. The training content is also available in video format so users who are better with visual learning can follow along. For users to do this hands-on training, we have set up a training admin set on the staging server with basic metadata fields and a set of pre-selected small image files that they can use to learn the basics of ingesting image works. To further simplify the process, I have also created a training group so users can be added to that to provide them access to the training material on the staging server, instead of adding each new user to the admin set individually. I'm currently working on a similar setup for archival material in collaboration with the Archive Space Collect Service Manager to aid in the training for adding digital objects and linking them to finding aids. A collection manager user guide is also available that endeavors to document the key features and workflows for collection managers. We also offer monthly training sessions where we help collection managers and their student employees navigate the training material and offer office hours to address questions and concerns. We have received positive feedback on these outreach efforts. We hope to continue these interactions to make using digital collections a positive experience for our users. Thank you for the opportunity to present on this topic and share my thoughts. I hope what I shared during my presentation today serves as a good introduction and an example to new Hyrax service managers and others in service-oriented roles in the Samvera community. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.